Hello friends, I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope everything is good and great and wonderful. Everything here is pretty fantastic. I have a bit of a headache, but other than that, pretty good. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about No Rogues Allowed, because we haven't talked about it in a while, and I haven't written an article about it in a while. And I think the last time we talked about it, I said that I hadn't written about it in a while, and it was kind of bothering me. But the reason is, there's nothing new to show. You can't go to the site and see anything new, because everything that I'm doing is game engine related, building up to being able to actually attack and defend and move through rooms and all that stuff. And I have to write all the code for that. But today, I took the day off today because I had to pick my daughter up from soccer. I also needed to change oil in my car, and I needed to do some banking stuff. So I was like, I'll just take the day and I'll get a bunch of stuff done. And I did. And while I was sitting there waiting for her to finish soccer practice, my brain was stewing. And as it does, when I feel like this is a common problem, or not a problem, but a common thing for creatives, is you think of things when you're not working on them, and sometimes that inspiration is what, turns a light on. And I'm going to rewrite some of it again. I'm going to rewrite a lot of it again, actually. I'm going to rewrite all of the item generation again. I had been very much against the idea of making weapons, generating a weapon, and that's it. That's what it is. I want the ability, even though currently in my game design plan, there is no ability to disenchant or enchant a weapon that doesn't have an enchantment. There's no current method in my head. I have no encounters or anything where your equipment could be affected that way. I want that ability in the game, because I don't know where it's going to go, and I don't want to write myself into a corner right now that I can't get out of. So what I have been doing is, say this is a sword. When I go to create a weapon in the engine, I pick a sword. There's your sword, and now we decide, does this sword have any properties other than it's a sword? The main thing is the sword's condition. I made a thing called condition, which is a graded random number, meaning it's on a curve, that affects the attack value of this sword. So every sword in my game is not equal. They're all slightly different. Some of them will have higher attack, some of them will have lower attack, so they're all unique. So other than that, there's a whole bunch of things that could be added to this sword. This sword could be a shocking sword. It could be a flaming sword. It could be a sword of justice. It could be a sword of holy power. It could have a whole bunch of extra things added onto it. And so the traditional way of doing this, or the programmer mentality way of doing this, is this sword has all of those things programmed into it. It knows that if it's flaming, if it's shocking, if it's whatever, and it just has a long list of these attributes. And if I assign flaming to it, then I just update that attribute and say, it's got flaming and here's how much. I bucked that. I said, I don't want to do it that way. What I want to do instead is just have a bucket that attributes can live in. And so I can say, it's got flaming, and I throw it in the bucket. It's got glory, and I throw it in the bucket. And then if I ever want to know, does this sword have flaming, I look in that bucket, and I pick out all the things that say flaming and say, yep, and here's how much it has. It's really elegant and really simple, and I'll tell you why. Because if I ever want to say, this is a flaming sword, but it's been disenchanted, and now it's not a flaming sword, all I have to do is take that flaming out of the bucket and throw it away. It's no longer flaming. So now when I ask, is this flaming? Nope, it's not. Whereas if I had all that stuff stored, I would kind of have to know, like, what... Here's the reason. All of the words that make up the items in this game, so that glorious power, that flaming sword of glorious power, that glory probably adds holy to the sword. Maybe a small amount of holy, 10%. So when I look at this sword, I know it has holy, and it has 10% holy, which means it adds 10% to the attack. But I don't necessarily know which of the flaming sword of holy glory, or glorious justice, is giving the holy attribute. I have no clue. But it doesn't matter, because I'm just going to look in that bucket, total up the holy, and say it has holy. So if I remove the one that has holy and I look in the bucket, it doesn't have holy anymore. I don't have to know anything about which one of these things, flaming, glorious, justice, which one of those things gave this sword holy. I never have to care. And that was the reason. That's why I wanted to use the bucket, because it just makes it so that I, as the programmer, don't have to do a whole bunch of conditional checks to see what, I don't have to update all of these numbers all of the time whenever I modify this weapon. But the reality is, I create a weapon and it just kind of stays that way. What I realized while I'm sitting there, and I know this is really abstract and confusing, what I realized while I was sitting there, waiting on my child is, I have put in a lot of effort to make it so that I can create a weapon that I choose. So I can create a flaming sword of glorious justice on the fly. Like, I can make that weapon over and over and over again. It's not random. I can forego the randomness and just create that weapon. It's built into the program already. So what I realized is, I probably should have that long list of attributes. It makes it way easier for the programmer to understand, I'm looking at that sword, does it have flaming? Yes, it does. Here's how much it is, period. I don't have to do any other funky magic to figure out if it does and how much it does. So I should be updating those numbers. And on top of that, when I have the bucket, that means this sword is carrying around that bucket of information with it all the time. And whenever I ask the sword, do you have flaming? It has to look in there and figure that out. Instead of just knowing, yeah, I've got it, here it is, it's a lot of extra steps programmatically. What I've discovered is, the realization that popped in my head was, if I have a flaming sword of holy justice and I don't want it to have flaming anymore, I don't have to mess with this sword at all. I just create a new sword, a sword of holy justice. It doesn't have flaming anymore. And I just throw this one away, behind the scenes, I throw this one away and you get a new sword. It's a completely new item. And it's fine. Like, programmatically, game-wise, it won't mess with anything. There's no unique reason to say that this particular sword has to be edited. I can make this sword once, and that's it for the rest of its life. And if I want to do anything to this sword, I just make a new one. And then I adjust the new one on the fly. So, I'm not upset that I stuck to my guns this long, because, both of the programmers who've been helping me work on this, who've helped me look at this, Ben and Morgan, both said, it's confusing, but if it works for you, use it for now, live with it for a month and see what happens. And that's what I've done. I've lived with it for the past month, I've looked at it, I've messed with it, and it just took that long to find the other solution. The other solution is just make a new sword. I don't need to mess with this one at all. Just throw it away, make a new one, we're good. Everything works. And had I not tried to live with it, I might not have seen the reason why, right? I might not have ever got to that reason. I feel like, because, and I'll tell you why, the reason was, the path that I was taking was, if this is a flaming sword of holy justice and I want to remove flaming, what I'm going to have to do is look at the sword, or I want to remove the element. The element is flaming. I would have to look at this sword and see if it has any of those words in it. If it does, I would remove that word from the name, and then I have to go look up in the database, what did this flaming add to this weapon, and remove that from this weapon's stats. That was the direction I was going to go, and that's wrong. Completely wrong. Because one of the benefits of having a database is I can mess with it on the fly. So let's say I start a game right now and I make my flaming sword, and I decide that flaming doesn't do, what this sword does when it was created. Maybe I add to flaming. It does something else entirely. Well, this sword won't have that, ever. But in that case, if I tried to remove flaming and I went and looked up in the database and the database said it has this and I removed it from this sword, I was removing things this sword never got because it wasn't created that way. Instead of creating a new sword with the new stuff, it'll have all of the new values for those attributes. It just won't be flaming. I hope that made some sort of sense. It's weird. It's a Friday. I know. The programming talk doesn't do very well. I get it. It's kind of hand-wavy weirdness, and I don't like talking about it on camera, but I just wanted to share that I am still working on the product. I'm still working on the game. I'm at the point where I'm procrastinating. I'll openly admit that I'm procrastinating on the game engine itself. But I think that I'm procrastinating for good reasons. I'm procrastinating because I want to know that the core stuff, I have characters working, I have creatures working. I have containers and rooms, items. All of the items work. I have junk items. I have the ability to create creatures that have powerful weapons or not powerful weapons. I have all of that stuff working. Now the hard part is juggling all that together into some sort of game. But I wanted to make sure that all of that core stuff, to me, that's the stuff that's more important. The game engine, I can mess with forever. Right now, it's a text-based adventure. In the future, I could use all of these core things, the weapons, the rooms, the creatures, the players, all of those things could later on have graphics assigned to them, and it could be a full-blown, graphical game. But I need to make sure all those core components are solid. So that's kind of why I've been procrastinating. But I'll get back to it, and I hope to write articles soon. I'm going to write an article about this. That's finally the first exciting thing I have to write about. So that'll probably happen this weekend. Look for it, sometime this weekend. If you're not subscribed to my mailing list, you can go to CheveeDodd.com. You should get a pop-up, or it'll be on the right-hand banner, or the right-hand column where you can sign up for my newsletter. And if I write an article, you'll get it in your inbox. Please do that. It's Friday. That's all I got for you. I'm going to go enjoy my weekend. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I will see you again tomorrow. No, Monday. Today's word you should know to sound smart is braggadocio. It's a noun meaning empty boasting or bragging. Eric claims he is a consummate wine connoisseur, but it's just braggadocio. Braggadocio. B-R-A-G-G-A-D-O-C-I-O.